Hello and welcome into Fantasy Focus Football presented by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. My name is Daniel Dopp and I am joined by my three best friends. Two of you have microphone stands. One of you does not. Liz Loza, Stephania Bell, and Yates. Guys, we just came out of an awesome weekend in Boston. Live shows all the way around. Liz, first off, how was it? Your very first live show on Fantasy Focus. How was it this last weekend?
I absolutely loved it. I had a wonderful time bonding, all of us bonding together in person. I also have to say the viewers and listeners of Fantasy Focus are some of the most passionate and kind and knowledgeable people. I was stunned at how packed it was and also how engaging everyone was, how respectful everyone was. And we were in Boston, which, I was not necessarily expecting that level of sweetness.
Mike wore an Eagles jersey.
And everyone was still nice.
Trouble.
Yes.
And everyone was still
awesome.
Nice and respectful. We should go to Philly and have Field wear
a Boston jersey?
Jersey.
That's what I did. I show some respect to the cities that I go visit. And just as an aside, for those of you wondering, why the heck don't you have a mic stand? We're in the old studio today. This
That's
is like
right,
a throwback.
we are.
It's like being back in the cabin here, and we were having a mic stand issue. So I'm going full LeBron James. For those that maybe watch basketball press conferences, LeBron famously does not use a mic stand. He holds the mic in his hand. I have no idea why, but I'm going to try that for the next 58 or so minutes. When Liz said that I show respect, I show up in a Joel Embiid jersey when we do a Philly live show.
That's how that
check
works.
the receipts on that.
That's true.
I have photos.
That's true.
When Liz said the fans were so engaging, I didn't know if she was saying they are so engaged, as in they tried to propose to me.
Oh, you know what?
Is a guy actually tried to propose to Liz?
That
after
happens.
The show.
This is what happens at live shows, though. This is not the first proposal that we have had at a live show for what it's worth, actually.
Right. Yeah.
I know. Well, first, if you go in the Wayback Machine, way back when Field and Chapin first started dating, remember we had the whole introduction to Chapin at a live show.
Yeah, that was at
Which was awesome, and then she became part
Giggles,
a fan
Laugh
favorite.
Boston.
Right, she
Is
was
that
a
the
fan favorite.
Was it Giggles? Laugh Comedy?
Laugh comedy. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's
Been a minute, guys. That was a
live,
lot of
are we?
fun, though. Yeah.
You can edit this in post. So we've had we've seen some real relationships develop, and we also almost saw one begin on Thursday night. So congratulations to that guy
Shout
on
out to
shooting
Tyler.
his shot, right?
Yeah,
He shot his
that's
shot.
right.
TJ,
I respect that.
TJ, yeah.
I respect shooting your shot. Have to do when you have your moment. He almost capitalized, but it was a great night. Super thankful for everybody that showed up. And indulge me for 15 seconds to get sappy. This show is such a pleasure and a joy to do. There are times in which in this industry, which is public facing, people can be unkind and mean to you. That's okay. You got to take it, because the other side of it is Thursday night, where you have the most incredible people showing up. So
Totally
for
agree.
all of you listening from all around the country and even the world, we hope to make it to your city one day and do a live show. Preferably if you are in a climate that typically trends towards about 80 degrees. And if you have a luxury hotel for me to stay at.
There's nothing
Does that
wrong with
mean
that.
we can go? You guys can come to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We did an LA show
Talk
once.
about
Yeah.
swapping, remember?
I know. But to be
swap.
clear,
A house
houses.
swap.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephania.
I'll tell you what, it wasn't just that. Boston was absolutely fantastic. The next day went down to New York for Fanatics Fest with Adam Schefter, and I had so many people stop me.
Up that name
It wasn't a humble brag. I had so many people stop me to say, Daniel, I love Fantasy Focus. We are dialed in right now, getting ready for our fantasy leagues. We have so many, not only at our live show, but just being able to meet people there at Fanatics Fest. It's just always great to be able to meet people that spend time with us on a daily basis.
Amen.
So, all right, let's get things going with the opening drive. No.
Again, old studio, no sound effects.
You don't have any of our stuff yet. No big deal, though. All right, let's start
with the new studio when we go to the marathon tonight.
That's right, marathon
tonight.
It's like Wayne's World. Right?
It is a little bit of that. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, Marathon Field.
Wayne's World
7 to 9 p.m. ESPN 2 to kick off Fantasy Football Now. And then on ESPN from 9 to 11, 4 straight hours of Fantasy Football Now as a part of the marathon. Make sure that you check in and hang out with us. All right,
Let's go.
let's get things started with some rookie watch here. Liz Loza, someone tweeted out about your Chicago Bears quarterback, Caleb Williams. I believe it was Tyreek Hill that had a very interesting comparison on the #1 overall pick in the draft after what he feels like he's seen. So I just want to throw that tweet up on the screen really quickly if we have it, because I think it was high praise for a guy that we've been waiting to see what it's going to look like. Ty Hill says, Caleb Williams, so nice. He reminds me of ... Feels like that's a little Patrick Mahomes foreshadowing there.
Is that how you interpreted it?
That's sort of, it makes
Better not be
sense.
Tua.
Okay, I was thinking Tim Boyle, but to each their own. No, I'm kidding. Kidding. Yes, Patrick Mahomes, big time.
How you feeling? Liz Loza, as the de facto Bears fan of this podcast, what do you think of Caleb Williams after the first 2 weeks of preseason?
I mean, obviously the off-platform ability to throw, extend plays with his legs. Field, you mentioned, I believe, last week on a pod, the reminder to fantasy folks that while Caleb Williams doesn't get talked about as a rusher the way Jaden Daniels does, he certainly has some mobility, and that is beneficial for fantasy managers. I really, it wasn't a hot start. He struggled a little bit. I really liked that he stayed in for the whole first half and then found his literal footing and really connected with Odunze for that incredible 21-yard catch down the sideline. Like, I like that Odunze stayed in after DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, basically just got their feet wet a little bit, and they're building rapport. And I am starting to believe perhaps that after decades of subpar quarterback play or disappointments, that maybe there's real reason to be hopeful, not just about the talent under center, but having a true alpha to connect with.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that he could absolutely utilize. There's going to be plenty of those guys potentially in this offense with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. And Keenan Allen is no scrub, in spite of the fact that he is got one foot in the grave, according to Mike Clay. I didn't say it. That's a Mike Clay thing.
That's harsh. I will say this, because I spent time with Caleb down in Jacksonville when he was training. And so I saw him before he was drafted, and then I saw him again afterwards. And I can tell you, just even in that time frame, the things that he was focused on, the way that he wants to be great is part of the reason that I believe he will succeed. No matter what, the lows aren't going to shake him when he has the bad moments, and the highs aren't going to make him think that he's accomplished everything. And that's what you want when you've got a rookie that's starting out. So that, I know he campaigned for Rome Odunze, so clearly that's going to be a thing. But don't forget, he knew Keenan Allen from before. They knew each other a little bit from LA. They have worked together a lot. And I think having that veteran presence is a comfort to him. I actually like Keenan Allen much more than Mike Clay does this year, because I think he's going to provide a lot of safety opportunities for Caleb Williams when he gets stuck or he needs something quick.
I'll wrap it up and just say, I've got Caleb Williams 13th in my quarterback rankings. That's one spot behind Jaden Daniels. So while if I had to pick in just one league, I would take Jaden Daniels. I'll say this again. I said it last week when Liz was here. The idea of Caleb Williams being the rookie quarterback that cracks the top 10 of fantasy quarterbacks is not at all outlandish. Be prepared for a monster Caleb season.
All right, so you mentioned Jaden Daniels, Field. I feel like we got to move forward and talk about him, too, as a part of this rookie watch. Hasn't really been airing it out, but we've seen him utilize his legs. Is there anything that you've seen so far from the preseason to make you change the way you came in thinking about Jaden Daniels?
You guys ready for a cold take here? All 6 of the first round quarterbacks amongst the rookies, 6 in the first 12, excuse me. I guess you can say 5 because JJ only played one game, but even including JJ's one game, they all look exactly like I expected them to. Now, part of that is because it's preseason. They're not seeing complicated looks. They are seeing things that they have seen since the moment they started playing football with pads on.
Yep.
But yes, encouraged by Jaden Daniels. And I'd say there's probably 2 plays in the preseason that actually both happened against the Jets that I think are kind of what most mattered to me for Jaden. One was this deep shot down the field that was caught by Diami Brown. I thought he was the best deep ball thrower in this past year's draft class. And then the 3-yard touchdown run. Yep. Because if Jaden Daniels has 10 rushing touchdowns, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback this year. If he has 5, he could easily be a top 12 quarterback this season. He does not need that monster rushing touchdown total to get into maybe that top 10 to 12-ish, which is why we are drafting him right around there. And that's going to be a part of the playbook, given what we saw in that first preseason game.
Heck yeah. I'm gonna save all my Jaden Daniels kicks because I'm going to talk about him a little bit later in the show. Do you guys have anything else you want to add?
I just wanted to add 2 quick things. I appreciated that he did pass more in the second preseason showing. 12 attempts, only 3 with the against the Jets, the game that Field was referencing. Also, just in terms of ADP, it is interesting now to see that Caleb Williams is currently the 12th quarterback coming off of our boards. Jaden? Yes, and Jaden is now 13. So
really?
That's a nug you want to save for later.
Ooh.
Just know that the people who play ESPN Fantasy are also appreciating these 2 quarterbacks.
Without diving deep into it, quick, 1 second reaction to my question, just for Liz right now. Do you prefer Caleb way more than Jaden way more than Caleb, or is it closer to a coin flip?
Jaden way more than Caleb.
Okay, interesting. All right, we'll vet that one out more. That could be the protective Bears fan.
That could be that a little bit of that. Yeah. Stephania, we have been waiting to see what Malik Nabers can look like in this offense. We already had a little bit of an ankle injury, but we saw him 4 catches for 50-some yards this week. Seems like he's okay there with that ankle.
Yeah, I'm not worried about his ankle. And before, the whole Daniel Jones train that goes with that, I think everyone has to just remember it's so easy to take these old narratives and then just plunk them down on quarterback. But this poor guy is coming off an ACL reconstruction. That was his first game action. And I think what you have to look at mostly is that he was able to move well, that he was able to scramble, that he didn't show any hesitation related to his knee. Is he going to be rusty? Of course. If it was anybody else, he'd probably get the benefit of the doubt. But because it's Daniel Jones, he doesn't. So, he's going to have to prove himself. And I think there's reason to, Tiger's not going to change his stripes. He's not going to be a different quarterback. He's not going to be a much better quarterback because he had an ACL surgery. But I also think it's pretty harsh to judge him on that when it was his first time facing an actual defense. This is a guy who didn't get on the field during OTAs or anything and has been doing a really good job in training camp of getting himself ready to play week 1. So Malik Nabers looks healthy right now. The takeaway is Malik Nabers is everything we thought he would be.
Yeah, he's incredible. And I think the one thing people have to maybe divorce themselves from with the Malik Nabers sort of discourse is the idea that like Daniel Jones, what I think he does versus Kyler Murray does for Marvin Harrison Jr. is the floor is decidedly lower, right? The ceilings are actually quite similar for Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers because they're both such incredible players. And I would argue Nabers has even a higher chance to push for like a 30 to 33% target share because the Giants pass catchers besides him are not good. It's just what you are fearful of is Daniel Jones Saturday is kind of a look into what's going to take place a lot during the regular season. But there have been plenty of instances of star wide receivers having monster years with average or even below average quarterback play. Heck, I mean, I know that Garrett Wilson has yet to finish inside the top 20, but we have seen him have the worst quarterback play in the NFL and still push for top 20 value, which, by the way, would be ahead of where Malik Nabers is currently being drafted. And DJ Moore last year, Liz. I mean, part of the reason why you're so excited about Caleb Williams is not just because he's that special, but also because you have been thirsty for years for good quarterback play in Chicago. It was not good last year, and DJ Moore had 96 catches for a career high in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. So Nabers being drafted 12 to 15 slots lower in terms of wide receiver rankings than Marvin Harrison Jr., I feel comfortable with where I'm at with Marv, but I also acknowledge that Nabers could represent the far stronger value because the upside is that special. Even OBJ as a rookie back in 2014 did not have blow-you-away good Eli Manning football along with him to lead him to what was one of the greatest rookie seasons for a receiver ever in 12 games.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I've just been wanting Daniel Jones to be able to get a real wide receiver, and especially now without Saquon Barkley there, it feels like everything is just going to flow through this guy. And I like what you said here, and I'll just wrap it up with this. This guy feels like somebody that if you said to me he has an over 30% target share at the end of the year, I'm not going to be shocked.
250, I believe, is what you're trying to speak
I'm all
into
asking.
existence.
Listen, I'm a man of modest requests, but I tweeted that I won 250 targets. I don't know. Like, does that seem that unreasonable?
No, it doesn't. Honestly,
no.
If you guys saw the request that Daniel put in for the buffet tonight before the ESPN marathon gets going, you'd see what it looks like when someone acts heavy-handedly.
Listen,
that's a joke. That was actually my claim.
I love crab legs and I love lobster tails. So like this, we got to get some of the good stuff.
I didn't know they were serving those at the calf.
Yeah, well, you got to be of a certain echelon,
Can
Stephania.
I make a quick correction?
Yes.
It was Odunze had a 45-yard catch. It was Nabers that had a 21-yard catch. So I just
gotcha. Okay.
correct
No worries.
that.
All right.
It's also nice to see Nabers getting the ball in a variety of ways. He did.
I'm with you on that.
Which I thought was some creativity in this offense.
Let me ask you this question, Liz. I want to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. We got some news. Gardner Minshew pegged as the starter for week 1. Does us knowing who the starter is for the Raiders change any of your fantasy takes on any of the pass catchers in this offense?
I think that there's a competence that Minshew brings.
Does it give you more confidence based on that competence?
Gives me more confidence in a regular connection with Davante Adams. And this is not so much of a statistical take, but I feel like Davante Adams is less likely to become frustrated
This is more like a facts versus feelings kind of a conversation.
This is if I'm Davante Adams and AOC cannot connect with me, then I'm going to become increasingly frustrated for good reason. And while I think obviously the ceiling is not particularly high here, a Davante Adams who is poised and surrendering to what is ahead of him is nicer for fantasy than some volatility.
170 targets in each of the last 3 seasons. Field, I know they added Brock Bowers to this team. I know that Jacoby Myers is still good, but is there any reason why you think that Davante Adams is still not going to see 150 plus targets if Gardner Minshew was under center the entire team?
The target should be there. The stability, I'm not totally sold on. I am 100% happy that they decided to go with Gardner Minshew to begin the season. He's the YOLO quarterback in the room. I think he just opened things up. Liz said competence, confidence. I echo those and more. I am worried, though, that it was a narrow defeat over Aiden O'Connell. So it's not like I think that Gardner Minshew is all of a sudden going to light the world on fire this year with this Raiders offense. It's still going to be a pretty ugly offense from time to time this season. That being said, Davante should see him. Antonio Pierce made it very clear in his short tenure last year as the interim head coach and now the full-time head coach. He's going to make sure that the big dogs on the roster get what they deserve. Davante Adams is not going to have a big stretch of games where he has 3, 2, and 5 targets. Ain't going to happen.
Yeah. I think having him fall from grace would be really big. That would be surprising to me this year, given everybody else.
Mike tried to oust him from the island 4 years ago when he turned 25.
Tell me about it.
What a jackal Mike Clay is.
I want to ask you about another wide receiver then, Field Yates. We've been waiting, and ADP has shown people have also been waiting to get news on a potential Rashee Rice suspension. And if you have drafted already, right now it feels like you got incredible value on what could be the number 1 wide receiver in this Chiefs offense. Is there any reason now, we're this close to the season, nothing's been handed down by the NFL, are we too low overall on Rashee Rice right now in drafts?
Let me start, and I think it's important to be sensitive here. What Rashee Rice did was incredibly irresponsible.
100%.
It was very dangerous, and he will have to pay the price, both in the court of law, which he's obviously already gone through some of the legal proceedings there, and then potentially with the NFL. What I also know in covering and following this league for a long time is that the NFL moves extremely deliberately. We are now 17 days away from the Chiefs' season opener, the NFL's season opener against the Ravens. No suspension handed down for Rashee Rice. There's a lot going on in the NFL over the next 2 weeks between the preseason finales plus the roster cutdowns. Given the fact that we don't have an answer on Rashee Rice, and in me doing some reporting on this and getting a sense, I think there is a chance that if Rashee Rice is suspended, it does not happen until next year, which we've seen this. I mean, Alvin Kamara had the whole delay of a full year, right?
Yep, 100%.
So I'm not trying to say value because of it's a little bit of a weird term to use right now, but I'm just going to say that if we're 17 days away and there is no suspension handed down right now, players being drafted as wide receiver 32, who could be if he plays in week 1, the 15th ranked player on our board, would certainly be a player that ends up paying off relative to where you drafted him. So I want to plant that bug in people's ears that have not drafted yet. I am not saying a suspension is not going to come. I should say my general sense is it's possible that we don't get any suspension to begin the year for Rashee Rice. Things can happen during the season. They can happen after the season. But if you did not have a suspension for Rashee Rice at all this year, I'll do a quick, 1, 2, 3 down the row here. Would he be a top 15 wide receiver for you in rankings? Top 20? I mean, certainly higher than wide receiver 32 or so, right?
Yeah, I would have him top 20, probably.
I immediately thought wide receiver 18.
I think I would probably have him in that 15 range. Part of that is a little bit of the conversation around Hollywood Brown, how much time he's potentially going to miss. But we watched
Great
how good he was
what I understand
last year as a
Rice.
rookie too. So yeah.
I mean, down the stretch, he was a top 10 wide receiver. Yep. I mean, every single week, basically, it was lineup block Rashee Rice. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that because if we get zero word whatsoever about a suspension and Thursday Night Football kicks off and it's wait, didn't you guys tell me, you had to have him as your, outside your top 30 at wideouts because he might miss 2 or 3 or 4 games? Maybe he doesn't.
Yep.
Maybe it happened in time, but it's 17 days away. And knowing the NFL like I think I do, a lot of times they prefer to have certain punishments wrapped up before we get too close to the season.
Makes a ton of sense, Field. Xavier Worthy looked really nice in that game for what it's worth. And I get, he's playing against a bunch of backups, but that's kind of what you want to see is like a guy be able to take advantage of some opportunities. He looked really good out there as a guy you're
run away from coverage. I mean, I think that's where the speed actually plays in. You could see that.
Absolutely,
on a
you
couple
could see
of
it.
The routes he ran, and yes, nobody's playing. It's never ones versus ones, or if it is, it's for a minute out there. But still, rookie in the league, being able to run those routes, being able to get open for his quarterback. To me, I think that combined with where he could be used, where he could be valuable in return yardage or however they decide to utilize him.
Yes, please.
He's going to be the big play guy. Like Xavier Worthy to me is like one of my best ball league favorites.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where I think he's really going to shine. But there's some opportunity here for where you can get him. I think he's certainly not somebody I'd be avoiding.
No, definitely not.
Are you guys at all concerned about the potential controversy brewing between Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes?
Oh, yeah, where they're calling each other out on
television. Do you guys see this?
On national,
that was on that, in front of a microphone.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kelce making fun of his voice. Mahomes calling him out for running the wrong route.
I know.
And then having to throw the ball behind his back.
Yeah, that was tough.
But I think this is where, if we want to take that and run with it, I think the fact that if Patrick Mahomes was trying to just mess with him, and it still worked, should make everyone else in the league
Absolutely.
very, very afraid
Yeah.
because that's what they do.
Ugh,
Improvising it still works.
You're not wrong, Stephania. To see them do that in a real NFL game would be different than a preseason game, but still.
I think it struck fear into many.
into a lot of people.
Or people who might have just lost in a Super Bowl to them not that long ago do not like seeing them do things where they look better.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair, Stephania. Hey, quick shout out to my guy Jake Bates, who was on my favorite UFL team, the Michigan Panthers. Went 4 for 4. Yeah. Being able to crush it, kick the game-winning field goal against the Chiefs. On top of that, Lions play 14 of their 17 games indoors. Just saying that if you need a kicker on an offense, it's going to score a lot of points.
Okay, find you a podcast that gives you fantasy kicker analysis.
That's right.
Like Daniel Dopp just did. Shout out, Daniel.
He kicked 360-yarders in the UFL in 8 games this year.
I remember all of your tweets about it.
Yes, there were a lot of tweets about it. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We're going to pick up that kicker baton again.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Jake Bates was my most drafted kicker, and every time someone took him before us in our mock draft project, I was livid. I was seeing red everywhere. It was so frustrating.
That was that one time I grabbed him in the 8th round. And you were dude, what the heck?
I was PO'd, Field. I was. All right.
Me Terry McLaurin in place of Jake Bates?
Let's move ahead. We got a new segment today, guys. Thought we'd have a little bit of fun with this one. It's called Fantasy Sharks. A little bit of a Shark Take segment here. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to make a pitch on something that we think is going to happen. When you make that pitch, here's what you're seeking. I'm looking for these things, and then I'm going to give you the pitch on what it is that we think could happen with this player or this situation in the NFL. Obviously, when one of us is pitching, we have 3 other Sharks to say whether or not you are in and you are going to buy this pitch, or because of that, you are out on the pitch. Who wants to start things off? I guess I can if you guys want me to.
Daniel,
you start.
Fire away.
You made the game. I want to see how it works.
All right. So for the very first one, I am seeking. I'm going to say what my pitch is first, and then I'll tell you what I'm seeking.
Okay.
This is why you're going first.
Yeah. I decided I wanted to wait. All right. So my pitch is longtime tight end 1 Travis Kelce is going to finish outside the top 8 at the position. Travis Kelce has been the king.
And for those reasons, I'm out.
Of the tight end position for the better part of a decade, but he saw his production slip by over 100 fantasy points in 2023. His dominance at the position is a big part of why he was the guy, number 1 overall year after year. But it's not 2019 anymore, guys. It's 2024. And there are a whole bunch of people at this position. It's as deep as it's ever been. Sam Laporta just had the most fantasy points ever by a tight end in his rookie season. Evan Ingram just set the record for the most receptions by a tight end in a season with 116. Trey McBride put on a clinic in the second half of the year with Kyler Murray. Dalton Kincaid is going to lead the Bills in targets this year. There's still Mark Andrews, and that doesn't even mention George Kittle, David Njoku, Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts, or Brock Bowers. Travis Kelce is 34, turning 35. He has rarely missed time in his career. A part of that is the reason about this is the fact that he's just getting older. Your body doesn't respond as you get a little bit older. Another year passes, your body doesn't heal as fast. Stephania, that's just science, okay? The idea that he could fall from the position is real. I think he will finish outside the top 8. I am seeking a $50 monthly cafe credit from the ESPN CAF from September through January, and a 2-minute shop till you drop style walkthrough in Field Yates' backup walk-in closet.
A lot of closing.
Thank you for your time.
So, and he's going to finish where?
Outside the top 8. In spite of being drafted as a top 2 tight end, given how deep the position is, and the fact that at 35 years old, he's finally going to see a fall off, given all of the other pieces that have been added to this Chiefs offense.
So can I ask you a question?
That's why I'm here. Ask me questions.
Do you believe that last year was rock bottom for Travis Kelce in this era that we are currently in, which is,
I see what you did
post-prime?
there.
Oh, that was a Freudian slip. Do you really feel that this, like, how much lower can it go than where we saw him last year, in which he had 219.4 fantasy points without playing in the first game of the season and playing 0 minutes, 0 snaps, I guess, in the final week of the season?
I think it can absolutely go lower field. Like, this is just part of your body turning
really think so?
35.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Is this about him being 35, though, or is this about what we discussed in the opening drive about Rashee Rice being there and Xavier Worthy and potentially?
it's about all of the different pieces, and it's about the idea, and I don't say this lightly, but part of this is, like, we've watched eventually superstars fall. We watched the same thing happen to Austin Eckler last year, and I know that there was some injury concerns there.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm just saying that, like, it's not like superstars don't do this. They don't stay top 1 at the position for their entire
No,
career.
but outside 8 is a
Wait, that is-
big drop for me.
Wouldn't you have
Do you want
him
me to go
ranked
big or go home?
lower?
Well,
You have him a side end 2, so you still are pretty confident.
yeah.
I would not draft him. Even though I have him at tight end 2, I'm not drafting Travis Kelce.
Okay, gotcha. Have you considered moving him down in the rankings?
I have considered it, but I still think he is the second best tight end in the league. I just think there is a possibility, given how good the rest of the league is, and the idea that there is a fall off in production at the age 35 season when he has been unbelievably healthy his entire career. I think it lines up and it could make a lot of sense, guys.
In Daniel's defense, last year was the first time that Travis Kelce went under 1,000 yards in 7 years, though he was still the tight end one in terms of
Fantasy points per game. Yeah.
I think you're asking too much
I
from
think
me.
you're asking too much. Yes, Stephania,
That's
do
the
it.
thing.
Okay.
Is like the investment that you want me to make. $50 a month cafe credit? If you told me that there would be a month and you would match it, then I would give you that month, but I'm not in for the whole season.
Okay.
I'll
You know what,
leave the
Daniel? I'm
field
going to make it
closet
easy on
out
you.
of it because
I'm out.
Yeah, that's simple.
Daniel just doesn't want you in his closet. That's
But it's the backup walk-in closet, Field. It's not even your walk-in closet 1. It's your walk-in closet 2.
You can still go like Rent the Runway style and borrow some clothes for me.
Okay,
Can't have
okay,
it.
that's fair. That's fair. All right. Are you out? Are you out on the idea that...
You're the only
I
one
would
left.
like to negotiate.
All right, I'll negotiate with you. Do you think it's crazy, given everything, that you could see him finish outside the top 8?
As Stephania said, the top 8 would mean a pretty big injury. Like, if we're gonna say it, we're gonna say it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak any of that into existence. And I also, given the durability that he's had over his career, don't think that that's likely. That would be certainly.
I hear what you're saying. I just don't think that past health is indicative of future health because like this game is very physical.
Give him
be
the
different.
science, lady. Let's talk. Give him the science.
Yeah.
I mean, like
I know.
at any given moment, a guy could get hurt on a football field. And
That's true. And so NFL has
Right.
essentially a 100% injury rate. Anybody who steps on the field is at risk. Injury exposure, time on the field, they equate. But history of past injury is the best prediction of future injury. So it doesn't mean he can't get hurt. And
Correct.
he did have something that happened last year, a little ding. But I don't look at him at 35 because of the way he plays the position. And I've always thought that Travis Kelce was a volume king. And I still think that that's
All right, then I would do $25 in a pair of Lululemon pants.
Or I would say if you, I mean, I will give you, I will have Field pay you $15 a month
Okay.
to raid his closet and get a wrap at the cafeteria.
Yeah.
For top 5 outside of the top 5 consideration.
I would do top 5.
You make the deal with Field because it's his money, okay?
Well, you made the deal. Okay, well,
money in his closet.
the field said he was out already, so I
I've
think
been out for a while. I'm just
Yeah.
over here
Yeah.
thinking about
All right.
the marathon tonight.
negotiating
Top
like,
five.
guys,
All right.
I like it. I appreciate
You're
it.
going to walk through Liz's closet, though. That's not clear.
No, I don't. And Liz,
I don't have one here.
not here. Yeah,
Not
you do have a
yet.
backup walk-in closet, though. I'm sure back home in LA. All right, Who's up next, Liz Loza? Why don't you go next?
I will take it because it is topical. So, Sharks, hello. I am seeking, and this is topical in many ways, a personally tailored on-campus closet
Oh, look it.
full of all-weather apparel and accessories.
You need that up here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Raining for 30
Did you
straight
say all
hours. in
weather or all
Connecticut.
leather?
All weather.
Oh, I thought you said all leather. I was like, okay, Liz. Like, let's
Get it, girl. Get it.
I mean, leather could be part of
That's
it.
fine. No big deal.
You had me at all leather. I was in.
So a little bit of leather, including all weather apparel and accessories. I would like an umbrella. Period.
Yes.
Maybe one that has my name on it. For the idea of waiting until after the 5th round. So as soon as this could happen, it would be the 6th round to draft a tight end because tight end depth has never been better.
It's not a bad idea, Liz.
And
say, you guys
all or
are-
nothing thinking at the position is dusty.
I like it.
Okay,
guys are-
here's my question to you. Who can I get? Who are you offering me? Tell me where we're starting.
Yeah, what's the middle rounds to you? What's waiting on tight end, Liz?
You want based off ADP, it begins with like Evan Ingram, Dalton Kincaid, George Kittle.
Yeah.
Right. I just want everybody at home to understand
So
what
do
we're
not
talking
bother with Travis Kelce.
Or
Do
Sam
not
Laporta.
bother with Sam Laporta. Do
Yep.
not bother with Mark Andrews. I think Trey McBride might be a little bit inflated. And so we can start considering
about.
a
Just
tight
turn
end.
field out.
Trey McBride
Now we
and
got a
George
problem.
Kittle coming off the board in the 6th round.
Trey
Value.
McBride is
Trey
higher than
McBride's
that.
coming
He's
up.
coming in the 4th round.
Yeah, how is he going in the 6th round?
Because
coming
I'm
off
just
the
looking at
board.
ESPN
Where
live
can I
draft
sign
trends
up?
right now.
Well,
guys.
Yeah, I know.
changed
Yeah, I know.
overnight.
Seriously. Yeah, this is again a reminder. ADP data is subject to change every moment, and
But still,
we have
we're
sing plenty of
mostly-
leagues in which McBride's going much earlier
Way
than the
earlier
6th
than that.
round. Yes.
Evan Ingram is coming off of a career best effort. He obviously has pre-existing rapport with Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones gone, Kincaid. We've all talked up, right? I also think that Kyle Pitts is an interesting comeback situation, or you could wait for Jake Ferguson much, much later, and that's a nice floor of 10 fantasy points per game, or Pat Freiermuth, who I think has some bounce back appeal as well.
okay.
Given, I think he could be second in targets behind George Pickens in Pittsburgh. So when you're looking at the idea of positional scarcity and you want to eschew one of these big
That's an Ivy
three,
League word.
I don't know what that
Like, you
means.
got- you-
I
you
had
got
several
that. I like
cashews
the
yesterday,
word.
but I don't know what
Yeah,
issues
it's my
are.
Ivy
Yeah.
League.
I've got 2 shoes. I don't have a shoe.
Not issue. Issue.
Oh, okay.
right?
The
Like,
emphasis
you don't
is
need to
different.
do it. I'd rather get Marvin Harrison Jr. perhaps than Kelsey, Nico Collins, or Alvin Kamara at a value instead of Mark Andrews, Anthony Richardson, or Malik Nabers instead of George Kittle. These are options at different positions that are going at the same place as these
So here's
brand name tight ends.
Here's where I'm struggling. I'm
Richardson or George Kittle.
I'm struggling. I'm with you. I hear you. I love the leather closet. This is my mind. There's leather going in there.
I love that. for
It's
you.
touchdowns. Like those guys at the top, they're going to find the end zone. The other guys, I think, are talented tight ends. I think they're going to, be targets. I'm not as convinced. And Mike Clay is not here, so we don't have to cover his ears about looking for a touchdown, but he does talk about touchdown opportunity. And I think that's where the guys, part of the reason that they're going so high is because we expect to see them in the end zone.
I don't mind a chain mover at tight end, though.
Kyle Pitts found the end zone one time.
Yo,
It was like 4 years ago, but it happened.
But that's
need
why
it.
he's down there in the bargain basement.
Can he be our Deontay Johnson for this year? I mean,
I'm retired from manifesting stuff.
okay.
By the way, Tyler,
come out.
producer, future show idea. I want to do a fantasy focus during the offseason, to be clear, where we do a spelling bee. Daniel and I have to spell names of players, and Liz and Stephania have to spell actual words.
I think that's good.
Shoe, ESHOE.
ASHOE.
Issue. It's like a French shoe. Issue.
No.
Is it ESCHEW?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
All right.
Man, I feel.
Can you use it in a sentence? No.
Nope.
Liz just did.
I've got a shoe.
You guys will
on
never
my
guess
foot.
what the final word in the first ever Scripps spelling bee was.
Onomatopoeia.
That's a good one.
You'll never guess. You're thinking way too big.
Now, I think I've heard this fact before.
Therapist.
Recidivism? Oh, okay.
I can spell therapist. So I'm just 50 years too late to.
Does it-
Anyways, I digress.
I'm buying Liz for what it's worth. You tell me you want to wait it. Like I would absolutely furnish an off season, in season, doesn't matter, a walk-in closet so you can have clothes that are
Mr.
for you here.
Wonderful
Because I am in on waiting at the tight end position and grabbing someone in those middle rounds. I love the value.
I'm in as long as I can also visit the closet.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we can share clothes.
Wow.
All right, we'll go three ways.
All the leather is yours,
Yeah.
Stephania.
Stefania's got the leather. I got the umbrella, and Daniel's got the.
I'm gonna do the shoes.
Leather tech.
I got the shoes. Yeah,
We're
I got
all
the
in.
shoes.
Good deal, Liz.
Jacket.
Nice deal.
You in a pair of chunky heels.
Yeah.
I like that.
Stefania, you don't want to see me in a pair of chunky heels, but we can make it happen. All right, who do you got?
Stephania's got a kink today.
That's, you know what?
I know. It's because my girl Liz is here with me. Okay. Hello, Sharks. I am seeking a nice Napa cab. I know it's so off-brand.
Oh, yes, it is.
For the
She was saying a
idea
nap, which I'm in for as
of
well.
drafting a kicker before the last round, because I'm going to show you why this will be the difference maker in your league.
Wow. Okay.
Specifically, I'm going with my guy, Brandon Aubrey, professional soccer player and software engineer before he kicked in the NFL and then just set the world on fire in his rookie season.
What do you think set him up to be a kicker, the soccer player or the software engineer?
Both.
Okay.
But also the kicking coach, whole story, which I'm going to reveal someday, who kicked for Dak Prescott in college and is Brandon Aubrey's guy.
Okay.
He's the Bryson DeChambeau of kickers, the engineer and the.
I like it.
He is.
All
but,
right.
But listen, they're onto something because now everybody's like, look at Brandon Aubrey. And oh, by the way, casually setting records in the preseason. If you all saw, he made a 66-yard field goal.
I did.
And by the way, I'm hearing he does that stuff all the time in practice. So last year, not a fluke. Led the NFL amongst kickers with 157 points last season. That's 27 more fantasy points than any other kicker. 10 out of 10 on field goals, 50 yards or further. Okay. I would like $25 from each of you to invest in my strategy because it's going to be a nice Napa cab. We're not going with any box wine.
Okay.
Which you can easily recoup
Shout
when
out
you
Franzia.
win your league using my advice. And the worst thing that can happen is you end up raising a glass with me at the end of the season.
I'm in.
Man,
Honestly, yeah, it's a really good pitch.
Yes.
That's a good pitch. So how early, when you say that, are you saying like the third to last? Are you like
Well,
kicker
if you watch
defense?
me in my mock drafts, I put my money where my mouth is. I tried to draft Brandon Aubrey in every single mock draft we did.
Okay.
And I mostly had to get him until people started catching on. Tyler.
Tyler Fulgham, yeah.
People started catching on. So I was trying, because most people go kicker and defense last.
too, yeah.
So I would flip it because I think there's more parity in defense. So I would try and get him. But then I saw people were interested. So I'd move up. I think once I'd take him in the 13th out of 16 rounds, but most often 14th round. It's not a huge leap. And the payoff is so worth it. Think about the guys that you're taking as flyers where chances are you may end up tossing them and picking somebody else up off the waiver wire. If you play in a league where you have to put a kicker in, why not get the best kicker by far?
and so then you
Wait a
wait
second.
until your final round to grab like a Tyrone Tracy
Sure.
or whatever.
Yeah,
You were
that's
talking
what
about
I've
Brandon
done.
Aubrey.
Yeah.
Something
mhm.
like that. Okay, because you think those dart throw type players will last.
Yeah, they
the final round.
absolutely. I've done it before. I mean, look, Kamani Vidal, which I've already been on record, and
Yes,
you
you
know
have.
some people
Good preseason
disagree with
showing,
me,
yeah.
but like I can get Kamani Vidal in the last round. I can still have Brandon Aubrey, and I still was getting in some cases my Niners defense or the Browns defense as well. So I am changing my strategy. This is somebody who used to like do the dart throw with the kickers, but I have now played in too many leagues where I lose a week by a couple points.
I'll say
Few
this.
points
Slim margins.
So slim margins.
Yeah.
This can be your difference maker.
This is expanding my mind. It's making me think outside the fantasy box that I came into the studio with, because I'll be honest, it's always been last two rounds for me,
Teaching
right?
Heart is about to explode.
But part of the reason why I might be buying what you're saying, Stefania, is that our player pool is as deep as it's ever been. So if I decide to take a kicker in the 14th round rather than the 15th or 16th, it's not like there's not someone in the 16th that could still have some flyer or like sleeper upside for me because of how deep the positions are. I think 10 years ago, we didn't have as many of these people to be able to look at later on in the draft. So if you tell me you want to grab someone like that in the 14th round, that's not too early for me, given where everything's at. I think I can buy into this.
because people are listening and sometimes things
Sure.
happen. But I still think, to me, it's worthwhile. Difference maker.
I'll buy in.
We're
on
all
this.
in. We just bought.
Yeah, I think I'm buying in on that. We will buy you an app cap.
Unanimous, like all the Sharks were in.
I guess I'm the only one that tried to pick something controversial here.
There's a lot of people on the internet that would pay a lot more than $25 to have a glass of wine with Stephania. So I felt like I was getting a deal. We're being honest.
Seriously.
We can start a GoFundMe and find out. I'm willing.
Way to speak that one to existence, Field.
Collection, and then we can auction that off later.
All right, Field, we got one more. What are you bringing to us?
My fantasy Sharks. Apparently, you guys weren't going big enough because I am seeking $10 million in exchange for a rule. Yeah, that's pennies for you three. I'm seeking $10 million in exchange for a rule that could save leagues everywhere during Bimageddon.
Okay.
I'm all
Rule
ears.
is as follows. Each manager in your league has one, and I say one opportunity during the season to declare a player on a bye as active for that week, with the score the manager receives being equivalent to that player's season-long average up to that point. A bit of context here. In Week 14, the final regular season week, for most fantasy football leagues, there are a total of 6 teams on a bye, including the high-scoring Baltimore Ravens and Houston Texans. And maybe you have some interest in some other teams on a bye that week as well, more specifically to a few players like the Denver Broncos or the New England Patriots or the Washington Commanders. There might be a team in that league that is scratching and clawing for a final playoff spot and does not have a star player available because of the NFL's egregious error to have 6 teams on a bye in Week 14. There is strategy involved. Do you play your chip early in the season? Do you wait until your final opportunity to do so? Do you eschew the rule entirely and just win because you are that good? Sharks, I'm not asking for much, simply $10 million. You guys all understand the concept here, though, by the way?
Oh,
No, it's too highbrow, Field. Can you explain it again?
Well, just to make sure people get it. So, like, let's just say I think Christian McCaffrey and the Niners are off in, like, Week 10.
Yes.
You get one time. It's one time only. So let's say, hey,
Not
Week
one
10,
time per player, like one time in the
entire
season.
season. Right? Yep. And so Christian McCaffrey's off in Week 10, and you're sitting there and you're like, well, I have bad running back depth. He's on a bye. I'm going to play CMC, who up to that point is averaging 22.1 points. You get that in your lineup. It happens right away.
It's their average at the point at which you use them.
Correct.
So if they go off in the latter part of the season,
you've already used it. Yeah. And the thing is that, like, it might be easy to say, hey, just use your best player when that best player is on a bye. If your best player is a quarterback, you already have a pretty good quarterback behind him. It might be that Christian McCaffrey's on a bye in which you are a strong team and you're playing the worst team in the league that week, right? Or conversely, you might say, I'm keeping the powder dry because in Week 14, I've got 3 players on a bye and I don't feel good about my potential replacements and I want to save that for when I'm in. I hate the idea of having 6 teams on a bye. That's the big reason why I wanted to present this to the table. Right. And I think that I get it. Everybody knows the buys are coming. I have also been consistent in my stance that when I'm drafting in August, I don't worry about buys. I figure it out later. But if you agree to this in advance, it does not merely benefit people that are going to be bothered by that Week 14 bye, but people that could be bothered by a bye at a different point of a season, or a team just like hits the skids because of multiple and have a chance in a different week.
It has to be the same position. So if I'm in Week 14, I have a wide receiver on a bye.
Yes.
I don't get to
You don't get to put Christian McCaffrey in
Christian
there.
McCaffrey
Right.
average.
Well, that's where the flex. Oh, you hopefully you can do a little.
I think it should be.
maneuver
I
in
will
there.
specifically define it as the player being slotted into his single position.
At one spot, not a flex spot.
You can't move Christian McCaffrey into flex because you've got capable running backs and wide receivers.
And you've been starting him as a running back as your RB1 anyway. So wherever you've been starting him.
Trying to save all the commissioners out there who will have to answer these questions if this rule goes into effect.
This is very interesting to me because I do think that we all feel like since the NFL added another game, it messed with our fantasy end of regular season and playoffs. And it hasn't ever really been fixed because we love being able to get one more NFL game, but it certainly throws a massive monkey wrench into our end of season plan. So I like trying to find a way, Field, that you can mitigate some of this like risk, I guess, that happens
We're
here.
mitigating the NFL's mistake. It's a mistake by the NFL. It just is. As a matter of fact, if I were to pull players anonymously, my bet is they would prefer not to have their bye in Week 14.
Oh,
it's
sure.
the last bye week. These guys are freaking toast by then. I think most players would prefer a bye week somewhere between like Week 7 and Week 12. And I get it. The NFL wants no teams on a bye during Thanksgiving week. There is a way to work around this. There are 32 teams. Do the math. You split it up more evenly. You do, whether it's 5 weeks with 6 teams on a bye plus, or whatever it would be, right? Like 5 teams with 6 on a bye, and then I can't do the math out loud, but you guys get the point. Make it more equally distributed and have it clustered more closely to the middle of the season.
Agreed. I'm with you on that. I don't think I would give you $10 million field, but I would give you maybe like...
Sadly, I just bought a house with a moat in Bristol, and I told them... A moat, yes.
Like a palace.
Moved into Matthew's old place?
Yes, I bought Matthew's old house, and so I did tell them I had $7 million to put down. So
you need at least $7 million.
He needs the extra $3 million for the koi fish.
That's what it is to be able to fill it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, and the signing bonus the Lions are about to give to Jake Bates.
Yes. Hey, I'm in on that.
Creative solutions are exactly what this country needs more of. So
yes.
Well done, Field.
I think I could be in on this. It's an interesting
Valuation's
thought.
too high.
Yeah,
Valuation's too high. You can go back to the boardroom and work on those numbers, but overall, I
Exactly.
think the creative solutions lead to progress. And
enough.
Or go to the
like it.
public, get public funding of like
Yeah, there you go.
$9.95 million, and then maybe we'll play along.
We can come up with the other whatever's left over.
We love the concept.
Thank
We
you.
don't like the financing.
More seriously, I am challenging the commissioners that are listening to this show right now to always be thinking creatively about ways in which you can make the league better. And I think that this year specifically, and we'll see if the NFL continues with this week 14, 6 teams on a bye and perpetuity schedule. But I do think that, I know right now week 14 is an eternity away, but we're going to get to week 14 and there are going to be some people, they're going to be so mad about the fact that you could conceivably have a roster with Jaden Daniels, Mark Andrews, Javonte Williams, and I forget, and whatever, Tank Dell or Nico Collins. And you're gonna be like, I have 4 of my best players not available. That stinks. It just does. So getting ahead of it, I think, is a worthwhile consideration for commissioners out there. Now, on top of that, if you want to pay me $10 million, I am open to that as well.
That's fair, Field. That's fair. So basically, everyone liked everyone else's idea except for mine because I was negative and I was trying to have. Okay, well, I should have brought something more positive to the table. Sorry about that, guys.
That's your
we know not to get on the wrong side of the Swifties, so we're.
You know, what are you going to do, guys? I feel like I'm as plugged in as I can to the music side of things. I'm hoping I get a little bit of grace there from all the Swifties that are part of this.
I think you should.
All right, we got one more segment here. We'll be quick about this one too. It's a fantasy blitz battle, my friends.
Oh,
here's what's going to happen. There's going to be one person that's going to answer a question. We got 5 different questions. We'll see how many of them we get through. Okay. Ideally, one person goes first. We hear their argument, and then a second person is going to go behind them. We're going to decide which one of them has the better arguments between the two. I'm going to start at the bottom of this list and start with Stephania Bell and go with players that you are actively avoiding in drafts despite their popularity. Stephania,
I know.
This is a big one.
The incoming hate in
Hey, I set the table with all the Travis Kelce talk, so it's not going to be as bad as that. But if there's one player that you are avoiding in fantasy drafts, despite how popular they are, who is it and why?
And this is right now, as of today.
This is right now. And then
Subject
Field
to
Yates
change
is going to go after you.
if the conditions change. But I'm actively avoiding Jamar Chase. And I'll tell you why. There's a contract situation with Jamar Chase and the Bengals where he wants to be paid quite a bit, perhaps more than Justin Jefferson. He has not practiced during training camp.
Yep.
This week, there's a joint practice with the Colts coming up. They're going to have Wednesday off, then they have a preseason game on Thursday. So that'll be another week of not practicing because I don't see this getting resolved. So he's essentially been a hold-in where, he's there, he's present. He has been at almost every practice. But it's clear that he's not ruled out missing games for this. He is committed to this. So that's one element. Second element is his quarterback is coming off a massive surgery. And I have expressed previously some of my concern, which isn't that he's going to be out there. We did see him participate in the first preseason game. He did not play in the second one. He is considered full go. He got released off the veteran days of rest, but they don't really ever practice 3 days in a row anymore. The volume is my concerning thing with Joe Burrow. I've talked about that before. I just don't know how it's going to be when he has to throw all the time, every game. And then my third element is with the essential time off that Jamar Chase is having. We always worry about players who come into the season as an injury risk when they've done no football activity whatsoever.
Sure.
So here's a guy who may play in week 1. He may decide not to play in week 1, or something may come up, some hamstring tightness that he's not available to play in week 1. But I do worry a little bit about injury risk for a wide receiver who's not doing anything in practice at all actively before the game. So all of those things, when I look at who I can draft in fantasy drafts around him, there's just uncertainty right now that's going to make me skip him and go somewhere else.
I think that's going to be a hard pick to beat, because based off ADP data right now, he's going really early still, right? And so I set this table on Jamar Chase a little while ago on the show, saying exactly the concerns that Stephania has right now about how, I just think there are safer picks, guys that will be on the field week 1, and I have no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I also, for the record, consider the CeeDee Lamb and the Jamar Chase situation different. I think CeeDee gets resolved. I would encourage you all to listen to the Adam Schefter podcast with Daniel Dopp, which, of course, drops every week, but they had an episode from this past Saturday at the Fanatics Fest, and you guys talked about the wide receiver situation. So contract situation specifically.
Chad Ochocinco specifically joined us to talk about it.
Yeah.
No one knows the Bengals like he does.
Yeah,
so.
Chad, thanks for getting done. My pick is Zamir White. I talked about Zamir previously as well. There is, and it's ironic that his teammate is now Alexander Madison, but there are some shades of the Alexander Madison situation from last year, this year, to me, with Zamir White, in the sense that he may be the best running back on the roster going into the season by default. Not totally certain that he can be this guy that, and when given consistent RB2 workloads, will actually pay off RB2 value. He did some damage in the passing game in isolated games last year. Don't know that he's a consistent threat in that regard. And I don't know that this Raiders running game is going to be particularly efficient or effective. Josh Jacobs last year was obviously very much ineffective and inefficient as a runner, despite that, or with that heavy workload. So Zamir White, a guy who I just think there are other running backs who are in that range that you can pay a little bit more to get, or you can wait a little bit longer and target guys who have less certainty, but perhaps comparable upside to Zamir White. One note, and this is a little bit of a nuanced stat, so bear with me here, and it comes from Nate Jonke from PFF, and he does a great job during all times of the year, but as preseason, especially when there are not sickos out there who are willing to do this work, tracking personnel groups and snap counts, who's on the field with who. And this is a tweet that was posted late Saturday night. Best fantasy finishes by a non-rookie running back to play in the second half of the second preseason game over the past 4 years. I know that's very nuanced, but basically the bottom line is a lot of non-rookies playing in the second half of a preseason game in week 2, which is kind of viewed as a more prominent preseason game.
Yep.
Not a lot of success there. Devontae Freeman, who was RB31, Rex Burkhead, who was RB52, Deion Jackson, who was RB55, Deontay Foreman, RB57, Jermichael Hasty, RB62. So sort of the TLDR of that is playing in the second half is not often viewed as a great sign about where that player's role is headed during the season. Zamir White will play more than those guys, but I still maintain some concerns.
Liz, so rather than make our own arguments, do you agree with one over the other? I mean, it's tough to. I actually fully agree with Field on this, but it's I'm with Stephania on the Jamar Chase conversation too.
Well, I do agree, and I've voiced those concerns about Zamir White to you on this podcast. But I actually wrote down Jamar Chase as well.
We have a winner.
And my notes were contract situation. Look, this is a quote. Stephania has me shook about Joe Burrow's wrist. Can take Amon-Ra St. Brown or Justin Jefferson instead. No, thank you.
They do say great minds think alike. I think I've heard that before.
They do say that. That's true. That's
Ivy
true.
Leaguers.
All right. So I like it. Let's go with Jamar Chase for that one. I think we're going to move on then. Liz, I want to do one for you here. Name a rookie everyone is excited about, but do you think has a chance to be a disappointment in 2024? Doesn't mean they will be a disappointment, but that their season could be a disappointment in 2024.
Listen, I think Ladd McConkey did an incredible, masterful job of creating buzz for himself during the draft process. The minute that Jim Nagy gave him the Tyler Lockett comp at the Senior Bowl, McConkey's stock flew through the roof. I think that he is a very intriguing player. I think he is much more than, a terrier slot receiver. I think that the Tyler Lockett comp is certainly appropriate. However, this is a player who was not the alpha at his offense in Georgia. He maxed out at 762 yards over 4 years at the university. I do not expect him to be the alpha in LA, despite the lack of depth surrounding him. He wasn't a highly productive player in college. He has some obvious durability concerns, back and ankle injuries last year, toe and knee issues in 2022. And he's in a very low volume passing offense. So frankly, I'd rather have Xavier Worthy, who is going at a similar place ADP-wise. And I think the McConkey hype has been gaining momentum since January, February. And now it's time we pump the brakes a little.
I don't know. Again, the Ivy Leaguers will help out here. Is this the right use of, in your mind, has the Lad McConkey hype jumped the shark?
Ooh.
Does it work or no?
Like it's kind of like a mixture between the two like segments that we did as well. I mean, it's
I don't know if it's jumped the shark yet, but I think it is the runaway train. It's a runaway
hype
train.
train has left the
hype
station.
Train has left the
Jump
station.
the shark when something like goes out of style because it's been overused.
Jump the shark. Yeah, it's when like you're trying to. If it's almost like you're trying too hard to still do a thing.
It's like every single one of those stupid trends on TikTok. Like if one more person tries to convince me that somebody in their group doesn't know that "give me my money" is going to eventually lead to them getting no applause.
Yes.
I don't know what I'll do.
That's fair.
Field being
It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
You're being so demure. You're being so mindful. Look at Field being demure and mindful.
I know.
I don't even know.
Guys like that trend?
Only you and I get it.
No, I know. We got it. We got this.
Okay, don't worry.
Anyway, here's the thing. I kind of bought the Lad McConkey hype.
Ooh.
Nice call, Stephania.
And and part of it was I was a little bit influenced by this guy to my left, but also I felt like in that position, I think the idea of the Chargers being this heavy run offense, I think that's been overhyped too, because ultimately they have Justin Herbert and they're going to throw the ball.
Sure.
Justin Herbert with his bad foot, but out of a boot now and getting better supposedly. That's another conversation, but. Here's the issue. I look at their wide receiver room. So DJ Chark has the most veteran experience. We don't really know how it's going to work with Palmer, Quentin Johnston. And then I really wanted to see Lad McConkey. Now I was at the Chargers, and to your point, Lad McConkey was not practicing that day, and he's been a little bit nicked up already. But I think Harbaugh loves him, and I feel like it's one of those things where I really feel like it could go either way. I think this is like, it will either pay off huge dividends and he'll end up becoming a star, or it's going to sort of fizzle out and the whole Chargers offense is going to fizzle out.
All right.
I feel like Liz's case was not convincing enough. So let me make my case then. No, you make your case.
Yeah, I'll go quickly and you tell me. And then
I don't
you go.
want to make a case. I want to be Mr. Nice Guy right now.
Yeah, because I've already talked about a bunch of disappointments, so it's easy for me to continue to be the bad guy.
It's a hard category because we don't want to say, nobody wants to say it. Like it's hard to be honest.
So this is what I'm going to say. My rookie disappointment, if I had to pick one, would be Jonathan Brooks. Returning from a torn ACL.
Yeah.
Dave Canales says he won't be back until week 3 or week 4.
And that was, if you look in the context of that, he only said, yeah, I guess, to somebody throwing out week 3 or week 4.
Correct.
So.
Then, Stephania, he's still got to learn the speed and quickness of NFL game. Once he comes back to playing, that doesn't mean that he's back at his full performance that he used to be, correct? Not only that, but, and this is a big hypothetical, but what if these Panthers aren't good? What if ESPN Bet has their win total at 5.5 wins, which means you don't expect them to score a lot of points? What's the reason then that you want to rush back the rookie running back that you just got coming off of an ACL when you know that your team isn't making a playoff push and you'd rather have him for the future? I know eventually it could be good value because you can always stash him on your IR and maybe have him for the second half of the season. But based on where he is going, I think my biggest rookie disappointment would be Jonathan Brooks.
This, and I know we say this about every player, it depends on where he lands in ADP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because for a while, he was skyrocketing. This was like right after the draft, and he was like RB18. And that obviously is ridiculous. It would take him being a top 10 running back in fantasy the minute he gets
comes back in,
right?
Yes.
He is dropping precipitously. If he slides into the 30s for running backs, that was a good word, right? Liz was kind of impressed by that one.
Precipitous.
If he drops into the 30s for running backs, I think it's fine. Because at that point, every running back comes with such significant questions that even if it does not work out, I'm cool with it. which is why I've dropped him outside of my top 30, or I did a while ago in my running back rankings, because he is very talented. And if you were to get, hypothetically, down the stretch, 6 or 7 games of Jonathan Brooks being a legit starting back for the Carolina Panthers, to me, totally worth the cost. But you're right. I mean, if you see him going, and again, ADP data early on was suggesting he was going as like a top 18 back, and that was wild.
Yeah. That's a little too much right now. Stephania, like, what is it that when listening to this, when watching him, like, you're the one that I'm going to lock in on to make sure that I know what's going on. Like, are you in on Jonathan Brooks? Are you passing on Jonathan Brooks? How much have you taken him in and the mock drafts that we have done?
I haven't at all, because he's always gone earlier
than how you feel.
Than where I would value him. I pretty much Fields' argument is where I stand. I mean, when we were going through this exercise and preparing for today, he was on my list again, not because he will be, and that's why you have to couch it, right? Not because he will be a disappointment when we see him. He might look fantastic pretty quickly. So it's like, he doesn't disappoint, but it's relative to the value of where people are drafting him for what they expect him to be in his rookie season. I look forward to his sophomore season very, very much. But I think there's, number one, the danger of him not being able to produce enough to make him super fantasy relevant for this season.
Sure. Or
the flip side, that he gets out there, looks good, starts getting way too much volume for what he should in his first year, and then has a little setback. So, those are the risks I see.
He's the anti-Javonte Williams.
I picked Brock Bowers, but it was totally because of situation.
Oh, which makes a ton of sense.
Like, he's a rookie who had all the hype. We know what kind of talent he is, but we saw where he landed. We look at the situation and we're like, I don't think we can capitalize on what we think Brock Bowers can be when he is where he is right now.
Yeah. Hopefully, back to the beginning of the show, Gardner Minshew can give us a little bit of love and keep Brock Bowers fantasy relevant in his rookie season. That's what I'm in for. Hey, that's going to do it for the 4 of us today on Fantasy Focus, but that's not going to do it for fantasy football here at ESPN. Fantasy Football Marathon starting tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern from 7 to 9 on ESPN2. 2 hours of fantasy football now, and then over at ESPN from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. 4 straight hours.
Lots of coffee.
Of FF Now. Make sure you come hang out with us. We love you guys. Don't forget to love each other. Be kind to yourself. And don't forget, Fantasy Focus Football is presented by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. We'll see you guys tomorrow.